Hi, my name is Liz Hathway and this is my astrological look at the week ahead. That's the week starting 30th of July 2018. I'm recording from a different space this week. It's a bit noisy in my work space, so I'm in my little alchemical space here. There's one thing that really strikes me about this coming week, and that is the number of planets that are retrograde. We have Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Chiron, Neptune, Pluto and the Node. And if we look at next week on the 7th, that's next week, Tuesday I think it is, Uranus goes retrograde, which leaves us actually with very few planets moving direct, apart from the Sun and the Moon, of course. We will only have Venus and Jupiter moving direct. I think that is quite striking because, I mean, we quite often have a few planets retrograde and sometimes we can have 4 or even 5, but this is obviously an overdose of retrograde planets and they all bring something specific to the equation. Apart from the fact there's probably a lot of reflection going on over the economy, over events, over themes like responsibility, certainly with Saturn retrograde. You know, if I'm thinking back on my own film last week when I was talking about scorched earth, I mean, I didn't mean it literally, but it turns out, you know, if we look at what happened in Greece last week and then later on in the US, you know, these horrendous fires. And yeah, there is that question of accountability. You know, where could the structure, which is very much a Saturnian thing, be improved? You know, where were mistakes made? But I want to take a little look at each of these retrograde planets. We have Mercury, of course, which in many ways is slowing down communication and it's allowing space for reflectivity, but it's also sort of saying it's not necessary to share all our thoughts with people. We can keep some things to ourselves. If we look at Mars, Mars is currently in Aquarius, but it will move back into Capricorn. Mars is slightly more restrained when it's retrograde. It holds back a bit. So that means if we want to get things done, we have to make some extra effort, really have to want to do it. If we look at Saturn retrograde, Saturn is going here as well against its grain. It's working against itself. So maybe Saturn is a little less restrained. Although having said that, you know, we definitely need, you know, to pay extra attention now to the structure of things, you know, how we structure stuff. And Neptune retrograde, of course, this means we can easily fall into patterns of addiction, into the need to escape can be greater. And of course, for many people, this is going to be completely fine. They're escaping on their holidays. It's the summertime, of course. But there is that sort of sense of anyone who's stuck in the day-to-day, the monotony of things can really wear us down when Neptune is retrograde, because we really would like to have something more exotic. And Pluto retrograde as well, you know, can create, you know, these undercurrents, these feelings of, you know, things are about to erupt, and perhaps a need to want to keep things under wraps, to keep things under cover. But it's certainly a lot to deal with, and particularly when we look further into the week at the actual aspects. We have on Thursday, for example, the second of 3 Mars-Uranus squares. Mars is in Aquarius, so it has that little bit of holding back. Uranus will go retrograde, of course, only next week. So this is quite a stationary slowing down Uranus square in a retrograde Mars, and that's on Thursday here. I'm talking, of course, from Amsterdam, so we're looking at Middle European time. What was I going to say? Yeah, so Mars square Uranus, that's a dodgy one, you know. We know it's accident prone. We know it's over haste. So in a way, perhaps the fact that Mars is a little bit more restrained is going to be quite beneficial to that square. But it's certainly about exposés, it's certainly about sex scandals, it's certainly about misbehaviour, it certainly, you know, has the ability to shock. Uranus can always you know, make us go, whoa, what was that? But I think basically one of the main things is, you know, don't, you know, really be aware, you know, that certainly around the midweek Thursday, that this square is on, you know, so take precautions. Don't, if you, you know, you think, oh, you're in traffic, you think, oh, I'll just zip in there. Don't do it, you know, just take your time, hold back a little bit. And we also have Mars sextile Chiron on Saturday. And a Mars Chiron sextile, that's very much about, you know, healing. It's about sexual healing. It's about healing anger, healing issues around, you know, wanting to assert yourself at any cost. You know, sometimes it's not quite the right moment to say something or to, you know, express rage. You know, sometimes it's good to be a little bit more thoughtful about it. And I think the energy this week is wonderful for that. All these retrograde planets are really encouraging us in a way to reflect, to hold back, to think before we act, to think about, you know, whether in the long run, you know, a certain course of action might not end up hurting us too, you know. The final Mars, this Mars-Uranus square, I think has been really interesting because the first one was on the 16th of May and that was literally in 0 degrees Aquarius, which is where, you know, the next Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 2020 is going to be there. So that's 0 degrees Aquarius, which is talking very much about shared experience. It's about shared commitments to things. It's about, you know, what we can do together, you know, to make things better, feel better, to create a sense of community. Then we've, as I said, we have the second one now this coming week on Thursday. Again, that's Aquarius, Taurus, you know. So there is a sort of, you know, a clash here between more radical and conservative elements as well in a way. But it's quite an exciting, long drawn out square. And the last will be on the 19th of September. So this is the ongoing story of the summer in a way. Okay, I'm wishing you a great week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Bye.